have a chance to hand out my handouts for me. I'm going to be condensing a 20-minute spot into, I don't know how many minutes I've got here, Dave. 20 minutes per half.
Okay.
5 to 7.
5 to 7 minutes. Okay, we'll be going the whole 7 minutes, I guarantee you. Okay. When they started redesigning how healthcare is financed, and there's more and more deductible and more copay going towards the subscriber, and it's called consumer-directed healthcare, which means that supposedly the consumers now have a motivation to choose where they go to receive their healthcare based on quality and based on price. Problem is, we don't know where to turn for that kind of information. You go to a restaurant and you can tell, how long does it take to get in, and do you have courteous wait staff, and is the food good, was it seasoned correctly? All of these things we can judge, and we get to go to restaurants on a regular basis, and we get to talk to people who go to restaurants on a regular basis. So we've got lots of input, lots of history in which to judge the quality of a restaurant. With hospitals, we don't have that. We have a void. Hopefully, most of us are healthy, so we've had little or no personal experience with hospitals. And when you do, it's very episodic. It's just for that opportunity. The people around us have limited exposure to hospitals, so in talking to your friends and neighbors, you don't get a lot of input. So I wanted to introduce you all to a site. It's on the Health and Human Resources website, and it is a place where you can get data that is that is quality information to compare different hospitals in your area. And I want to go over some of the information, and to make it quicker, I've got this handout so that you can see some of the stuff that's there. They have a really well-designed website. You go in, you choose where your locale is, and then it'll bring up all the hospitals near you. Then you can choose the 3 hospitals you want to compare. And they've got a number of different criteria that we're looking at. One of the criteria is called process of care. That has to do with how care was delivered in this hospital. Now, all of these elements are data submitted by hospitals to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services through a program called HCAP. And so all of this data is collected off of Medicare patients. And when they're looking at quality of care, there's a number of mentions in there about different types of medications, ACE inhibitors, beta blockers, and such. I'm not clinically trained. I know most of us aren't. That's not the important part. The medication is not important. What's important is each one of those comes with a criteria. Was that medication delivered within a timely manner? Sometimes it's just as you get there, sometimes it's within 30 or 60 minutes. So that's an easy thing for us to look at. Did this hospital do a good job in the majority of patients in delivering their care within a timely manner? There's also mortality and morbidity rates. Those have to do with the fact that when you come into a hospital, it's an episode of care, and it's not the full amount of care. So part of what that looks at is how successful is that hospital in treating the patient so that they continued their recovery as they left the hospital. And there's a term in there called risk-adjusted. That means because this is a wide variety of patients, again, it's a Medicare population, so it's elderly patients by and large, they adjust for the fact that some patients come in and they've got lots of what are called comorbidities. Asthma, they could have diabetes, they could have kidney problems. And so in looking at the survival rate after you leave the hospital from a particular type of illness, they take into account and adjust it for those risks. The other thing you'll note is there's a number, an absolute number for each each hospital, and then there's a range. And so as long as the state averages or the national averages fall within the range, then we know we're with a hospital that has a reasonable level of quality in their success in patients recovering after the hospitalization. The last element that they have on there is called a patient survey. And this I really like because it is a survey that is taken of all the patients that leave. We get as many back as we can. We report it into HCAPS. We're looking at things like, did your physician and nurse speak to you clearly so you could understand what they were saying? When you ask a question, when they come into our hospital, we'll say, we want you to speak up. We want you to participate in your care. We want you to understand what's going on, and if you don't, please ask us. They're going to ask questions like, Was the room that you were in clean? When you rang the bell, did people come to you fairly quickly? Did they respond quickly? That's very important, because one of the issues that we really strive to achieve in a hospital is for people not to fall. Unfortunately, people want to get up and tend to themselves, and so one of the things we have to tell them is please, please ring the bell and wait for us to get there. We'll get there promptly so that we can help you so that you don't fall while you're in our institution. So look at falls, look at whether you recommend this institution again. If you look at the last page on your handout, that shows you an example of the graph. The graph shows you a national average, the state average, and then it shows you the 3 hospitals that you selected and where they fell. The site is very user-friendly, and I recommend it to everybody. Get a chance to look at it and see how different hospitals compare. This is an ongoing trend. Part of these things are things that they're trying to convince doctors to do more of, because they're considered standards of care, but even the doctors aren't always on board with some of these things. And that's part of what's going on. So when you see a number that looks out of sync, if it's the only number, call them up and find out about it, ask about it. It's probably, it may be an error in the data for that particular year. So I hope you have a chance to get on there and look at it and get a feel for what the different quality levels are. As time goes on, these will continue to develop and mature so that we have better tools for choosing our healthcare. Thank you.